Hey there, I'm going to be checking in at the beginning of each section of the course just to keep a pulse on how our project's coming along. Now, before we dive in and really get our hands dirty, let's take a minute to talk through the Power BI interface and workflow. Let's make sure you've got the program downloaded and the right settings configured, and then I want to share some of my favorite resources that you can use if you need extra support along the way. All right, the time has come for us to officially meet Power BI. Now, a quick summary here. Power BI is a standalone Microsoft Business Intelligence product, which includes both desktop and web-based applications for loading, modeling, and visualizing data. Again, the focus for this course will be on desktop specifically. There's a ton of additional info if you'd like to learn more at powerbi.microsoft.com. Now, I want to show you something called the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And Gartner's a market intelligence research company. They produce these quadrants a few times a year, and what we're looking at here is the Magic Quadrant for analytics and business intelligence platforms specifically, updated February 2018. And the idea is that you have completeness of vision on the x-axis and ability to execute on the y. And when you break down the players into the 4 quadrants, you end up with niche players, challengers, leaders, and visionaries. And where you want to be is right here in this top right corner where the leaders live. And that's exactly where we find Microsoft with Power BI leading the charge among some very popular, very powerful other platforms like Tableau, Domo, IBM, Click, etc. So really exciting time to be learning Power BI because I think it's only going to get more powerful and more popular from here. With that, let's transition into why Power BI. So what are some of the key benefits that make this such a game-changing product? Well, first and foremost, you can connect, transform, and analyze millions, even hundreds of millions of rows of data. And you can access that data from virtually anywhere, whether it's a database, flat files on your desktop, cloud services, folders of files, etc. There's a huge connector library that allows you to access a ton of information. And then not only that, but you can create fully automated and repeatable ETL procedures to shape and transform and load the data from those different sources. Next, we can actually build relational models inside of Power BI to blend the data from each of those multiple sources. And this is a concept that's getting more and more important in the analytics world. By creating relationships between all of those sources, we're able to analyze holistic performance across our entire data model. And that's a critical skill set for anyone working in data or analytics or business intelligence. It's that ability to blend information, tie sources together, and paint that comprehensive view of performance. Third, we can define complex calculations using data analysis expressions, or that DAX formula language. So we'll be doing this to enhance our data sets and enable some really interesting advanced analytics techniques using those powerful and portable expressions. And then perhaps the most important one, we can visualize our data with interactive reports and dashboards. And what we'll be doing throughout the course is actually building our own custom business intelligence tools using Power BI's best-in-class visualization and dashboard features. And then last but not least, fact is Power BI is the industry leader among BI platforms. It's intuitive, it's powerful, and most importantly, it's absolutely free to get started with Power BI Desktop. So again, really exciting time to be learning this tool. Now, last but not least, just want to make a quick comparison between Power BI and Power Excel, because there is quite a bit of overlap here, especially for those who have taken my Power Query, Power Pivot, and DAX course in Excel. So let's think of this like a Venn diagram, where you've got Power Excel tools on the left, you've got Power BI tools on the right, and this area of overlap in the middle with features that both platforms share. So here's kind of what it looks like in summary. You've got these Excel-specific tools on the left, like pivot tables, pivot charts, Power Map, Power View, and Cube functions. And then shifting over to the right side, you've got the report, dashboard views in Power BI that don't exist in Excel. You've got those custom visualization tools that we've been talking about, as well as the publishing and collaboration options available through Power BI Service. But where I want to really focus is this area of intersection, Like I've said before, these two tools are actually built on the exact same engine. Power BI takes the same data shaping, modeling, and analytics capabilities and then adds these incredible new reporting and visualization and publishing tools on top of them. So even though they're called different things in different places, the data loading tools will be called either Power Query or Get and Transform in Excel. The data modeling tools will be called Power Pivot in Excel versus the relationships view in Power BI. The fact is, it's all the same thing. And the best news of all is that transitioning is incredibly easy. These two platforms play really, really nicely together. So if you've been investing a ton of time building models in the Excel environment, no worries at all. You can import them right into Power BI in a matter of minutes. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in the beginning of the next section. So there you have it. That's our intro to Power BI. Let's cover installing Power BI Desktop and adjusting settings for the purposes of this course. If you haven't already downloaded the program, it's a very simple process. Just head to powerbi.microsoft.com and click that sign up free button in the top right. That will take you to another page that should look something like this. You can click the download free button. That will actually start your Power BI Desktop download. Once the download is complete and you fire up the program for the first time, you'll likely see a screen that looks something like this. Now, it may ask you to sign in to collaborate and share content. Keep in mind that you don't have to sign in to use Power BI Desktop. In fact, you can click the Get Data button to get started, or simply close this screen and continue using Power BI Desktop as normal. The sign-in is only required to access the sharing and collaboration tools available through Power BI service at app.powerbi.com. You absolutely can sign in or create an account. In fact, you'll get a free 60-day pro trial when you do, but it's not required for the purposes of this course. And keep in mind that if you do sign up for service, that Microsoft does require a work or a school email address. Next up, let's talk course options and settings. There are 3 different adjustments that we're going to make just to make sure that we're on the same page throughout the course. First, we're going to look at our preview features and make sure those are deselected. Now, as Microsoft rolls out new beta features and tools, those will populate in this list, and you have the option to enable them to try them out. In this case, we're going to deselect any of those and make sure that we're working from the same core platform. Second, we're going to update our data load settings to deselect the auto detect new relationships option. And basically, Power BI, it's a very smart tool. When you load up raw data, it's actually going to analyze that data and look for relationships and say, okay, I've got a primary key here and a foreign key here. I think Chris is trying to create a relationship between these tables, and it will automatically add the relationship for me, which is great, but it's not so good when you want to demonstrate how and why to create certain types of table relationships. So for now, we're going to uncheck that option. And the third update we're going to make is with the regional settings. Now, this is an important one. We need to set the locale for import to English United States. And the reason we have to do that is that the downloadable resource files and the CSVs that I've created for the course projects are built using English settings. So the dates are formatted as month, day, year. We've got decimal places noted by periods, not commas. So if you're in an area with different regional settings, like Europe or South America, for instance, you might experience errors when you try to load up that raw data if your system is looking for a different format or syntax. So I'm going to open up Power BI right now and just show you these 3 options in the actual Power BI environment. All right, so here I am in Power BI. I'm going to go all the way up to the top left corner. This is kind of my home menu here. Options and settings, select options. And this is that dialog box that we're looking at. We're going to start with preview features. As you can see, we've got some shape maps, custom themes. These are kind of new features that Microsoft is testing or putting out as a beta trial before they roll it out into production. So just make sure these boxes are all unchecked as you're working through the course. Next up, we've got data load, and this is the box that we want to uncheck here, where it says auto detect new relationships after data is loaded. And again, that just makes sure we have a blank canvas to work with in our data model. And then finally, regional settings. Just drop down this list and choose English, United States, press OK, and you should be good to go. Let's talk about the Power BI interface and workflow. So when you open up a Power BI desktop file, it'll look something like this. We're going to dive into each of the specific menus and panes and options here as we move through the course. But what's important to pay attention to now is this set of 3 icons on the left side of the screen. These are your 3 core views that represent the entire Power BI universe. You've got your report view, your data view, and your relationships view. Now, when we think about the Power BI and broad business intelligence workflow, it actually doesn't really follow this order. We don't start with the report and then move into data, then relationships. We're going to follow kind of a different process. Instead, we're going to start with the data view and the query editor. This is where we're going to connect, shape, and transform that raw data. Once we have our data, we're going to shift gears into the relationships view. That's where we're going to actually design our data model and tie those tables together with relationships. And from there, we'll move into the third phase, which is actually designing interactive reports and visualizations, and all that's going to take place in the Reports tab. So we will be bouncing around quite a bit between all of these different views, but generally speaking, this is how things are going to flow. So let me pull up Power BI. I just want to give you a very quick preview of how these different views and tabs look and feel. So here we are in Power BI Desktop. As you can see on the left, we've got our 3 familiar icons: report, data, and relationships. Right now I'm in my report view, which is basically my canvas for creating dashboards. I can drag visualizations and objects. I can access my fields and measures here, but this is where all of the designing takes place. Clicking through to the data tab, this is where you can actually see the tables and the raw data and fields that you're working with. So you can click through to see different previews of your tables. You can also add your calculated columns and measures using data analysis expressions here as well. And then you've got your relationships view, which is all about the data model. This is where you can see your tables as objects, along with the relationships, the cardinality, the filter flow, everything about your model. And we're going to cover all that in the Data Modeling 101 section of the course. So there you have it. That's your 10,000-foot view of the Power BI desktop interface and workflow. Before we dive into the actual hands-on demos in Power BI, I thought it'd be nice to share some of my most helpful resources. So first and foremost, right there within Power BI Desktop, you'll find a Help tab that contains a ton of great information. It's got links to documentation, to training videos, sample files, templates, support blogs, and communities, all accessible right there within the program, which is great. I'm also a big fan of the Microsoft Power BI blog. You can find this at powerbi.microsoft.com/blog. And one thing I like in particular is that they post monthly feature summaries. And this is a great way to see what Microsoft is rolling out, what new tools and features and functions are available in the updated version of the program. So I definitely recommend subscribing to that blog and checking it out. Next up, we've got the Microsoft Power BI YouTube channel. They publish some great demos. They also show the feature summaries here as well. And they've got some really good advanced tutorials. Also check out Guy in a Cube. It's another channel. It's sponsored by Microsoft. He does some really great advanced, more technical demos on his channel, which are really helpful. And then last but not least, Power BI user groups, or PUG. These are communities of users, including both local meetups and online forums. You can find them at pbiusergroup.com. This is another one I definitely recommend subscribing. They've got some great threads and forums where users can interact and help each other out. So go ahead and bookmark these, subscribe to the channels. I refer back to these resources all the time, so hopefully you'll find them helpful as well.